Hello and welcome to Levels Plus Whenever episode 132. And today we're going to be talking about Switch 2 game reveals I would love to personally see happen. I'm recording this a couple weeks ahead of time, but by the time you see it, it's going to be the weekend before the Switch 2 Direct. And there's just a lot of things that I would love to see. There's some things I don't want to see too, so maybe we'll also touch on those. But that's what this video is going to be all about. I've got a pickup that I'm going to do now, and then I'll add one that I'm getting a little bit later. But I got Stories from Soul, the Gun Dog physical, and I've heard really good things about this particular game. So I'm looking forward to giving it a go at some point. Alright, pickup number 2 is Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which came with this plate that is not going to show very well. There you go, of the cover. Alright, that's all for pickups. Let's get into the meat of this episode. I want to talk about 10 things I want to see game-wise, and 10 things I don't want to see game-wise. For Mario Kart 9, or whatever they decide to call it, I would love for it to continue the trend of having other Nintendo properties involved. I really like the fact that in 8, The Legend of Zelda, and Animal Crossing, and Splatoon, and F-Zero, and Excitebike all had points of reference with characters and tracks. And I would like to see that taken to the next level with even more characters and tracks from even more stuff. Even if it's DLC, I would happily pay for it to get a Metroid track and Samus as a racer. That would make my day. There's all kinds of cool stuff that could be done, too, on that front. So that's my biggest hope with Mario Kart 9, because while it looks quite nice, and the fact that it's pushing more racers than ever before, it would be great to continue to expand not just the player count, but the franchise count. That would be my biggest wish. For Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, my wish is that there's a Switch 2 version. I know that Retro is going to do a fantastic Switch version, but I do hope that there's a more optimized, prettier, better frame rate version for the Switch 2, so you can choose. If you're going to stay with your regular Switch, you're not ready to jump on the Switch 2 bandwagon, you can go that route. Or if you are full in, ready to go with the Switch 2, you can go that route and get a better version. And when I say better, I mean just better running. That would be fantastic. I would really like to see that happen, because we've seen what Retro can do with Metroid Prime Remastered. I feel like in a lot of ways, Retro kind of got shafted for the Switch, because they really didn't do a whole lot for it. Whatever they were planning to do before Metroid Prime 4 came back their way kind of evaporated. And they did some support work here and there, but they really haven't had a chance to show off a new thing in quite some time, an entire hardware generation practically. So I'm excited to see what they do with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, especially since Remastered was such a good, fantastic, phenomenal remaster, the best one on the system, in my opinion. Number 3, probably not a surprise, I want to have a new Fire Emblem game shown off. I don't care if it's a remake, or a remaster, or a Warriors game, or a brand new entry. I just would love to see a new game. And my big hope is, if it's a new game, that it follows the Three Houses philosophy and not the Engage philosophy. The interesting thing about Fire Emblem on the Switch is that Three Houses and Engage were basically worked on around the same time frame by different teams. Three Houses had a lot of support from Koei Tecmo, And Engage was basically like the Awakening Fates intelligence system staff, continuing to work on that game. And you can see the difference in the plot execution. Koei Tecmo brought in some new writing blood into the franchise that it desperately needed, and Engage had the same, I'm guessing, writing staff that it's had since the 3DS, and boy does it show. I'm not saying the Three Houses narrative and storylines are perfect, but I will say that I certainly care about those characters a whole lot, and with Engage, I don't have any desire to play the game again, because I was so disappointed by the plot. So that's my biggest hope if it's a new game. If it's a remake or remaster, I would hope it's a remake route, so we can see some real opportunities for games that we haven't had a chance to see, like Genealogy of the Holy War, Thracia, is it 766? I think it is. Or Blazing Blade. Although that would be fun to have with Binding Blade if they wanted to remake both of those. Or remasters of Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn. A new Warriors game would also be welcome. And they wouldn't have to necessarily focus it on a particular game like they did with Three Hopes, but they could try the medley approach again, but make it more open and more broad. I just would love to see one of my favorite franchises again and not be in a bit of a funk about it following Engage. Because I'll be honest, Engage was a disappointment, and the DLC just kind of soured it deeply for me. No New Game Plus, so I can't like skip stuff and have all the characters. I just have to deal with the asinine storyline again. I don't want to do that. So that is my big hope, is to have a Fire Emblem game to be excited about that's new in some way or another. Number 4, probably not a big surprise either. I would like to see something from The Legend of Zelda. I'm not expecting a Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom level project. I think that's a little too early to be asking the core Zelda team to have something brand new. But I do think it would be neat to have either Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, remastered from the 3DS, and perhaps Grezzo could fix some of the changes they made to Majora's Mask that made it worse. Or maybe Wind Waker Twilight Princess could show up. I don't really want to see Breath of the Wild remastered. That would be kind of disappointing because it's so new still. But I don't expect like a full-born Zelda release. I would expect some sort of remaster project or something. But it would be nice to have Zelda near the launch window of the Switch too. I think that would be great. Number 5. I want to see something. I don't necessarily need to know everything, but I would like to see something about what Sakurai is working on. Is it another Smash game, or is it something new and different? Is Ultimate going to be the template working from with the Switch 2? Or is it going to be a back-to-basics reboot of what the entire franchise stands for? If it's Smash, we don't know. I just really want to see what Sakurai has been working on, and I suspect that we might get some hint of what that is at the Smash 2 Direct. Number 6 is Splatoon 4, which I don't know if it's quite ready to be launch window. But Splatoon 3's been done since early 2024. They finished Side Order around March. So they've had about a year fully to start fleshing stuff out, retooling the engine for better hardware. My biggest hope with Splatoon 4 is that the maps are less like Splatoon 3's and more like 1 and 2's. I've realized, and I've said this probably a couple times now, that as much as I think Splatoon 3 is the best Splatoon game, the multiplayer is not my favorite. That still belongs to 2. But I don't want to go back to 2 and play it because I like all of the quality of life things that 3 has. So, my big hope for 4 is that it incorporates a lot more of the just broader Splatoon mapped. Because honestly, 3 brought back nearly every map I was not a big fan of. And 2 had all the maps that I liked from 1. And most of the maps that came over from 1 and 2 for 3 are not my favorites. So I don't even know if there is one. I like some of the Splatoon 3 maps, but like they did the store. The cruise ship is probably the closest one that I could say is a favorite, but even then, I wouldn't say that I love it. Number 7, I want to see more Nintendo Switch Online consoles. I think that the GameCube or the Wii or the DS or the 3DS, which is essentially what we're missing, would all be fantastic to start bringing to Nintendo Switch Online. I would also like to see more third-party support on that front. Sega could do more than the Genesis, for example. We could get into the Master System, or the Saturn, or the Dreamcast even. We could expand Genesis to include Sega CD and 32X games. Konami could bring the TurboGrafx 16 along for the ride, etc., etc., etc. Nintendo Switch Online also needs to update its freaking list of bonus features. The last new thing that they added, I think, was Tetris 99 outside of consoles. We've still got Mario Kart DLC. We still got Animal Crossing DLC. We still have Splatoon 2 DLC. But there hasn't been like a DLC incentive for quite a long time. And we've lost content. Pac-Man 99 went away. Super Mario 35 went away. So we desperately need some serious refresh for the NSO. And a more frequent release schedule would be nice. It would be great to get something at least once a week. It could be spread out across consoles. It could just be one game. But if we had a weekly release cycle, that would be fantastic, because I think then people would be more interested in hopping into those apps. It is Nintendo, though, so I'm not expecting them to just move from their relatively glacial release schedule when it comes to NSO. But that is a wish, to get more consoles and more frequent releases. I would really, really like to see that. For number 8, I want to see something retro that hasn't been in the public's eye for a while. So this would be like Kid Icarus hasn't been seen since the 3DS. Golden Sun hasn't been seen since the DS. Star Tropics hasn't been seen since the NES. We've got a lot of great revivals on the Switch, with Famicom Detective Club coming like first and foremost to mind, but we've also had Advance Wars come back. F-Zero came back with F-Zero 99. It would be great to continue the cycle. And personally, I would love to see a new Wave Race. I think that a Wave Race game with modern graphics that could capture that thrill of the N64 game and how that game feels to play, that would be amazing. And that's probably my number one, like, most wanted retro revival. Is I don't necessarily want a remake of Wave Race 64. I just want to see a new Wave Race game. I'd also accept a new 1080 game. Either one of those would be fine. But I would love to see Nintendo do racing stuff outside of just Mario Kart, because they are good at it when they apply themselves. Number 9, Mario. That Mario guy. Most important thing to Nintendo. It has been since the launch of the Switch, with Mario Odyssey coming out like in October of 2017, that we've had a full 3D Mario game. And Odyssey was spectacular. We did get Bowser's Fury as a part of Super Mario 3D World's remaster, and that is good. But I want to see a full-fledged 3D Mario game. That I think is what I like the most about Mario at this stage in my life. Mario 64 is my favorite of the series. Odyssey is not too far behind. I do like Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario Brothers Wonder a lot as well. And Super Mario 3D World's also up there. But I think that for me personally, if we got another 3D free roaming platformer, I would be super stoked. Alright, last thing I want to see. I do not expect to see this. This is very much pie in the sky. I would love for Mistwalker and Nintendo to reach some sort of deal to have the games that they collaborated on together be re-released on the Switch too. So that would be the last story, of course. For Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon to also be a part of that arrangement so that all of Mistwalker's big titles can be on modern platforms. The nice thing about Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon is that Xbox does have good backwards compatibility plans, so those games are playable on an Xbox Series. But it would be fantastic if somehow we could get those to be on the Switch too, along with The Last Story, which is like my pie in the sky Nintendo re-release at this stage, beyond what I've already listed. Alright, let's get into the things I don't want to see. What I don't want to see, just building off of what I was talking about with Breath of the Wild, I don't want to see Switch remasters. That's boring. I despise the current practice Sony's been doing with remastering PS4 games. You don't need to do that. They don't have that gigantic loss in quality. When I play a PlayStation 4 game on my PS5, sure, there is some like fancy lighting, shadowing, particles that aren't as nice, but generally speaking, they look just about as good to me as a PS5 game. I don't want to see Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, anything Nintendo has released on the Switch be turned into a remaster. That would just be tacky. Especially since they would charge full price for it, and I don't want to see that. So that is my biggest don't do that to Nintendo at this particular Direct. Please don't remaster Switch games. If you don't have a single one of those, I would be ecstatic. Number 2, I would really like, and this is not a slight against the games I'm about to say, I would really like to not have a 1-2 switch, everybody 1-2 switch, Nintendo Land, Wii Sports, Play, Music, etc. type of title at this Direct. I have a feeling we'll see something of that nature because Nintendo can barely resist that call. But it's going to do very little for me personally, so I just don't really have any interest in seeing it. Alright, Flavia decided she needed to clean herself on camera, so we're gonna shift that up a little bit so she's not in the way. You can see her tail wiggling back there. Number 3, I think Mario Party needs a break. I don't want to see a new Mario Party announced. I feel like that should be something 2 years down the line. Do DLC for Jamboree. It's backwards compatible with the Switch too. Build off of this momentum of this excellent game in a series that has kind of been dodgy for a while. Let people enjoy the new one that has basically done everything possible to make it the best Mario Party possible. On that same note, number 4, I don't want to be deluged in Mario games. I feel like a Mario platformer, if it's 2D or 3D, fine, and Mario Kart 9, that's a good starting point. I don't want to see a Mario RPG, I don't want to see a Mario sports game, I don't want to see a Mario puzzle game, I don't want to see Luigi's Mansion, I don't want to see another Peach game, or WarioWare. Let Mario breathe a little bit. Let's not have the launch be so Mario heavy. I feel like the last 2 years of the Switch were extremely Mario focused. And while a lot of those turned out really good to great, it definitely felt like there was a saturation factor from the movie. So my fingers are crossed that we will just have a relatively mellow Mario starting point for the Switch. Number 5. I don't want to see Star Fox come back unless it is an actual Star Fox 64 caliber game. Because that franchise has been chasing Star Fox 64 since that game came out and has just not done it. The closest I think it's ever gotten was Assault by Namco back on the GameCube. And that would be probably one of the games I would not have a problem seeing remastered, but I don't want to see like a brand new Star Fox game that goes down gimmick holes. Because they can't just redo what made 64 work so well. That's my biggest concern, is seeing Star Fox show up with a brand new control scheme for the Switch 2 that involves you holding it upside down and like a crab. That franchise has had a rocky road since 64. And I would just really like to see another Star Fox game come out that can match 64 instead of chasing after concepts and ideas that it doesn't need to. You can iterate instead of create for Star Fox. Number 7, I think. I'm losing track because I'm getting distracted by things. Number 7, I don't want Forever Entertainment to work on another Nintendo property for the rest of existence. I am concerned following Donkey Kong Country Returns HD because it's sold really well, despite the fact that it reviewed kind of negatively or middling at best, because they screwed it up. They screwed it up like they do with practically everything else they touch. They messed up a key mechanic about being able to have both the Kongs jump on one enemy. So you can only have one. The other one just keeps going. And that is a fundamental gameplay mechanic that is not in HD at launch. And it's the worst looking remaster that Nintendo has put out. So personally, I don't want to see Forever Entertainment branding anywhere in the Switch 2 Direct. Number 8, I don't want to see Fire Emblem Fates remastered. There's been enough rumor, speculation talk about possible Fire Emblem things for the Switch 2. And Fates is one of them, and I do not want that mess of a trilogy getting remastered above Awakening, above Path of Radiance, above any other project that they could do. I would be more okay with an Engage remastered than a Fates remaster. I would even be more okay with a Shadow Dragon DS remaster than a Fates remaster. And I don't like Shadow Dragon on the DS. Please don't do that to me. Just don't do that to me. Alright, number 9. And this is going to get a little bit third party. I hope it is not in this Direct is not completely drenched in games that you could get on PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series or PC. I really want this to be exclusives / reveals happening at this particular presentation. I don't want to know that, for example, the Indiana Jones game is going to be on Switch too. That's great, but it's not exciting. I don't want to see Age of Mythology retold on the Switch 2. I already had the excitement about it coming to PS5, so I'm planning to get it there. I don't need to suddenly be like dealing with conflict of choice. I don't want the Switch 2 to rival the PlayStation 5 for me in terms of what I'm buying. The reason I have a PlayStation 5 is for games that I wanted to have that graphical fidelity, frame rate, just better running, or the games that I just never thought would come to Switch in a capacity that would make sense. So I don't want to see like, ooh, Resident Evil 4 Remake is coming to Switch too. Yay! But I'm not buying it again. So that's just kind of where I'm sitting. It's like, I don't want this Direct to be completely flush with things we already know. I want it to be things that are new and exciting. Even if it comes to PlayStation 5 at all later, I want to be surprised by something and not go, oh, well, that's great, that's coming to Switch too. Next. Not the world's greatest philosophy, but that's just kind of where my headspace is about what this Direct could be. Last but not least, for the Switch 2 Direct, I don't really want to see a backwards compatibility list or it getting too deep into the trenches about hardware, fancy tech that it's got. Like, I could care less learning that the Joy-Cons are mice. For example. I'm hoping that the Switch 2 Direct focuses more on games and not so much on buzz stuff. I watched GVG recently rewatch the 2017 Switch presentation, and it was a lot of look at all the cool tech we've got in here and awkward interviews with Suda51 and EA's person at the time. I would much rather have this be a Direct with games in a row with cool announcements, maybe about stuff in between. I don't want it to be primarily hardware, primarily talking heads. I really would think that for it to be a very engaging format, they've been doing it for years with Nintendo Directs, and this is a Switch 2 Direct. So I'm hoping that it follows that format and doesn't get too in the weeds about how cool the haptic joysticks are on the Joy-Cons. Alright, that is my Switch 2 wish list for what we will see in a couple days. I'll be doing a live reaction. So, I am very excited about the Switch 2. I cannot wait to learn more about it. I've shared what I'm most desiring and what I'm most fearing. So, we will see what comes to pass in a couple days. Thank you for joining me. I will see you when the reaction goes up. Take care.